Welcome to Wednesday, everyone. Right, so I feel like problems that face FTMs is something that anybody who's FTM could write a book about. Can I get an amen? It just seems like as soon as you realize that you're FTM, your life becomes hella complicated. And I think that that's mostly to do with the fact that society is not as progressive as I wish it was. Because if it was, then the only problems that I would have would be internal problems, which are awkward enough. Let's talk about dysphoria. Just for anybody who's not familiar with what dysphoria is this really awful feeling that you get when you look in the mirror and you don't see, at least to me, this is what it is. When you look in the mirror and you don't see what you want to see. The times when you realize that as much as you feel like a guy, your body is not. I mean, the worst times for me are obviously like there's this thing that happens to girls every month, and I am sure, or at least I'm pretty sure, that most FTM guys would agree with me. That is one of the most awful times, not just because you get cramps and it's just awkward in general, but it's like the reminder, a physical reminder that you are not physically a guy. The other big trigger, obviously, for dysphoria would be breastises. Now, I have rather large bosoms, and I've finally gotten to the point where I have a binder that can flatten them out to a point that I'm happy with. But as Alex pointed out in his video, hey Alex, it's not completely flat. There is a bump. And I think that it's probably more noticeable to me than anybody else, because when I look down, I can see that it's not flat, but looking dead at me, you can't really tell. But, people don't realize I'm trying to film videos these days, keep walking through my hallway. Anyway, but, yeah, so when I look down, I can see that it's not flat, but I try to tell myself that probably nobody else can see that. Maybe it's just me. I don't know. The more I go out, the more I realize that I just need to be more confident, because I think if I were more forthcoming in saying, no, not she, he, instead of letting it slide, I would be surprised to find that more people would not question me, especially within the LGBT community, I think. Because that's the problem that's the place where I feel almost the most insecure about it, is because those are my people, and those are the people that I want to love and accept me. And then when I go out to the clubs on Friday nights, which here is gay night at our local club, I wish that the guys that I saw there saw me as a guy. Because I have a boyfriend, but at the same time, there's something nice about being found attractive by the people that you find attractive, and they don't. So that's definitely a big one for me, and probably the biggest trigger of my dysphoria, breasts and blood aside, is the fact that I know that when I go out with my friends, they still see a girl. And that's the part that really, really makes me sad. So that's probably my biggest problem. It's not really a problem, it's just more so it's just depressing, to be honest. It's just depressing. It's just really sad. So dysphoria is definitely a big, big deal when you're FTM, and it's painful, and it's definitely a problem. Dysphoria is the pits, and when it hits hard, it really is. It can be quite debilitating for me. I'm not gonna lie, we can be quite candid. I have lain in my boyfriend's lap and just cried about it. on days when it's been really bad, and he's been there. So yeah, dysphoria sucks. It just flat out sucks. So I'm really sorry if that's something that you have to go through, because as a person who goes through it infrequently, it sucks. There is a flip side to dysphoria, however, at least as I've seen it, and it is a roller coaster ride in the sense that sometimes you're down, but sometimes you're up too. And I think that the up parts come from self-acceptance. So I think that even though the low points are really low and they really are awful, the high parts are just as equally excellent. The days when you pass, the days when you think you look good, the days when, you know, you're happy with the way that you are, it's worth it. So I definitely encourage you that, I encourage you not to let dysphoria scare you, because it's a part of being who you are, but I'm convinced that it's not insurmountable, and there are ways to help lessen it. If you believe that tea and surgery are the keys to lessening your dysphoria, then I think that those are really good solutions for you. And that's why it's so wonderful that modern day medicine has made those things available, if you can afford it. Disclaimer. And so I think that that's great, but I think that before you even consider doing those things, you have to be at least accepting of the way that you are without them. Because otherwise, no matter what you do, no matter how many surgeries you have, no matter how much tea you take, you're not going to be happy, because you're still going to be worrying that you don't pass. And at some point, I think that we all have to grow up a little bit and realize that being a man isn't all about passing. It's about everything else besides just how you physically are too. There's a lot more to being a man than just having a penis and having a flat chest. And I think that once we become comfortable with those things, the dysphoria will heal, or ease at least. And then the extra mile, such as drugs or surgery, can become valid options. But I would discourage anyone from doing them if they're not sound of mind, because they're not going to solve the problems that you have within yourself in the way that you think that they will, if you haven't already come to terms with you first. And that's my spiel about FTM problems. And I will see you next Wednesday, gents. Maybe it won't be so grim next time, sorry. But I'll see you then, and have a good rest of the week. Peace out.